started. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We are on the record. Today is Monday, October 19th, 2020. This is a regular caucus meeting of the Jersey City Municipal Council. In effort to adhere to social distancing protocols and best practices imposed by the city and state authorities, the City of Jersey City has canceled all public meetings and closed non-essential services as of March 16th, 2020 until further notice. As a result, this council caucus will be held virtually as a video conference with public access. We had a scheduled 4 p.m. start. The clock on my computer is showing 4:01 p.m. May I have a roll call for the commencement of this caucus? Councilperson Ridley, not here yet, and Councilperson Prinzeri will be here soon. Councilperson Baggiano.
Here.
Councilperson Soleil. Not yet. Okay. Councilperson Solomon. Not yet. Councilperson Robinson.
Here.
Councilperson Labarro.
Here.
Councilperson Rivera.
Here.
And Council President Waterman.
Here.
We have 5 members in attendance at 4:01 p.m. for the caucus. In addition, at its time for its preparation, the agenda of this meeting was similarly disseminated on Thursday, October 15th, 2020 at 12:30 p.m. to the mayor, council, business administrator, and to the newspapers, and posted on the city's website, so I can certify as to our total compliance with the Sunshine Law. Okay. Council members, when you do arrive, any council member that arrives a little late, if you could just send me a text, let me know exactly if I'm reading anything into the record the time that you arrived, and I will get to you and mark you down for the record and state it for the record as soon as I possibly can. Alrighty, taking it from the top. So
Yes.
first reading ordinance, item 3.1, City Ordinance 20-094. A refunding bond ordinance of the City of Jersey City and the County of Hudson, New Jersey, providing for the refunding of all or a portion of certain outstanding bond issues of the city, appropriating an amount not exceeding $21,300,000, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of not to exceed $21,300,000 general obligation refunding bonds of the City of Jersey City for financing the cost thereof. Any questions or comments?
What were the original bonds on this funding?
Is John Metro on? So these are bonds that were issued in 2011 and 2012. It's some MUA projects, or let me see if I can find the information on it. But this is one of the bond issuances that thankfully we have the ability to refinance for a variety of reasons. We have call protections, as they're called, in much of our municipal debt, meaning that we aren't allowed to refinance at any point. But because the market conditions are favorable at this point, this was one that we needed to we move forward with. We're saving about $1 million over the remaining life of the bonds here because of lower interest rates that are favorable for us.
Noted, and I think that's a good thing. But I'm just asking what the original bond you said is for MUA.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second.
Liz Castillo, are you on?
She is running late from something, but
Oh.
You know what, and Brian, just in the interest of time, just if somebody can just provide that for me.
yeah, we'll we can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other further questions? Okay. Moving on, item 3.2, City Ordinance 20-095, an ordinance amending Chapter 160, Fees and Charges, Section JJ, Streets and Sidewalks, and Chapter 296, Streets and Sidewalks, Article 12, sidewalk cafes, to establish new regulations for sidewalk cafes to allow the sidewalk cafes to operate year-round. Any questions or comments?
And what happens if this pandemic ceases? Are we going to still allow them to have outside cafes and take away all walking?
We can certainly discuss it. This establishes the ability for them to be permanent and year-round. If the council wants to remove sidewalk cafes, we could discuss it. But the thing to note here is that the city and the administration and the council, we have the discretion to approve and deny any locations for a variety of reasons, including for traffic safety reasons. And if there are, for example, too many in a row that are taking up too much parking in a certain street or neighborhood, these are some reasons that we can deny here.
All right.
Hey, it's Councilman Solomon. Sorry, I'm in and out of video here. First, just want to thank you. I know you've worked very hard in your team on this, and I think it's a great step, and I appreciate the work everyone's done here. Two quick questions, and I'll say both and then let you respond. The first is, does the ordinance contemplate what to do if a business sort of allows a sidewalk cafe to fall into disrepair or parklet? I have one that's close to me where it looks like the business may have gone out of the business may be, defunct, and parklet's kind of falling apart. So I just wanted to know if we thought that through, and if we didn't, maybe we could add a provision to allow the city to remove a parklet that is not being used. And then the second question was just related to the questions around the use of gas and propane and heating, and just to sort of understand where things sort of netted out in this ordinance, and if the sort of fire department is comfortable with where we're at.
I'll answer the second question first. The ordinance refers to the state fire code that regulates the use of heating and other flammable materials and devices that can be placed in public areas. Fire department's on board. All of our internal departments and divisions that would be responsible for enforcing and overseeing this, everyone is aligned with this at this point. This ordinance does allow for both propane-fueled heating devices and also electric and, for example, infrared heating devices. The requirements for the placement of those devices are the same. So no matter what type of energy is creating the heat source, we are requiring those heat sources to be certain distances, for example, from exits and from flammable materials and that sort of thing. The first question you asked, technically, yes, we could issue the same types of violations and summonses for any property that is in a state of disrepair, but it is a very valid point that we should probably make it very clear in this ordinance. So maybe we can just go back and forth through email over the next couple days to figure out what exactly we want to do there. But that's a great point.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi, I'm just joining in, but I'm assuming we're talking about the sidewalk cafes, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if this was mentioned. I saw in the ordinance that certain parts of the ordinance also applies to parklets, but right now we're just voting on the sidewalk cafes. All of these changes are for sidewalk cafes and not for the parklets, right?
This standardizes the rules and regulations for all of them into the same set. So parklets would be subject to the same rules and regulations for sidewalk cafes regarding furniture and fixtures that they would be utilizing in their space. So heating elements, hours of operation, entertainment, that sorts of stuff, those sort of things. But the review process, approval process goes through commerce and engineering and traffic for parklets.
Okay, so for parklets, I know we last time we pulled them up for the snow during the cold seasons. Are we looking to do that same thing, or are we looking to give parklets the option to be year-round also? Yeah,
we can. We're open to allowing them year-round. This will allow that to happen. This ordinance allows them to do so. but it's probably going to be the first year that we're going to be doing this. So we will certainly be evaluating and revising on the fly as snow falls and we see how well or not well it goes.
I have a question. Is there any way that we could maybe put dimensions on these things, because some of them are getting like very exaggerated, and I'm pretty concerned on some places where they're located where public safety could be, in jeopardy here.
Yeah, that's a big part of this ordinance in section, let me just find it here. It is, we have to just edit the formatting of this a little bit. For some reason, it didn't copy quite right into the digital agenda system, but it is, it's in the bulleted section, numbers 12, 13, 14, 15. This, and also section C, it includes and spatial limits for sidewalk cafes and for any semi-permanent fixtures that are placed in pedestrian plazas. So, for example, it is requiring a certain amount of clearance for emergency vehicles in the pedestrian plazas. If you look at the Newark Avenue pedestrian plaza, with the full street being closed, this would allow a 12-foot travel lane down the center of the street in that area to make sure that if there's an emergency, fire truck, ambulance, police vehicles have the ability to quickly and easily enter that area.
Okay, so
Brian,
so
if I can add, we also, so in our citywide parklet guide, we provide dimensions that anyone who's building their own parklet has to adhere to, which is narrower than the full width of the parking lane, to get at exactly the point you're mentioning, Councilman, which is that some of them are jutting out too far into the street. Some of them are not compliant with the dimensions. So we're just finishing up now an inventory of every single parklet in the city to determine which ones are not compliant, and then they will get notices and we'll figure out how to enforce specifically at those locations so they can correct them. Otherwise, they will be responsible. So the citywide parklet guide includes dimensions, and as a part of our approval process, we make sure that all applications are adhering to those dimensions.
So let me just reiterate what I said. Then let me just change it up. Maybe I didn't explain myself right. So did we get then like the numbers from like, and maybe Brian, you could answer this, the firefighter, with respect to the tower ladder, when the tower ladder comes into a scene and it has to open up, is it like 16 feet that they have to extend out, or is it 12 feet that they have to extend out?
We were told when we first closed the Newark Avenue pedestrian plaza area that a 10-foot travel lane was all they needed. We made it 12 feet just to be safe, and this would continue to maintain a 12-foot travel lane in the middle there.
Okay, got it. That's all I have.
Oh, Danny, when these parklets were open, it was supposed to be only 2 parking meter spaces they were taking. We're going on to 4 months they're out there, and nobody's been enforcing it, Bakra. They should have been out there 2 months ago, making some of these, especially up here, go back to what they're supposed to be.
No, we're enforcing
They have been enforcing them. We are continuing to get applications. So as we get new applications, there are more for us to review.
If they're enforcing it, then how come they haven't been moved back, or they haven't been made to move back to 2 spaces? I mean, come on. It's like the 5G's things. Nobody's contacted the neighbors. They're putting one next to a person's house around the corner, and nobody contacted the person that ripped up their sidewalk. I mean, this is ridiculous. If you're going to do this stuff, you got to have enforcement, and you got to continue the enforcement.
Agreed. We're enforcing every day the parklets, and we don't have any parklets out there that we know of that are more than 2 spaces.
Oh, Brian, Brian, come out of downtown and ride around. All right. I mean, come on. I don't see how you could say that.
I don't live downtown.
I don't know where you live, Brian. Kansas City.
So one of the things that we're doing now is measuring every single parklet again, just to make sure, even though the application said one thing and then we've gone through and visually inspected for initial approvals, sometimes things change as build them and make changes to them over time. So we're just doing another audit, a regular audit of every single parklet out there.
Yeah, but Brian, if there was a law that said they're only supposed to be, I mean, a rule, they're only supposed to be 2
Yeah.
parking meters, just ride downtown, right down on Newark Avenue. There's one there's about 3 or 4 parking meters. Right up on Newark Avenue, the one there, it's got 3 parking meters. Come on, you can ride around. This should have been enforced from the beginning and made them either close or move their parklets.
That is exactly the intention. We've written summonses. We've issued fines to some people. We've also said to some of them that are in violation that we would let them wait until this ordinance moves forward to make sure that they're going to be in compliance with whatever rules are out there. So, maybe they were out of compliance a week ago, but let's just make sure that we all agree on what the language is going to be before we make them make any changes.
Well, that doesn't make any sense, Brian. But, I know one place that's been issued 10 summonses and they're still open and nobody's done anything about it. I mean, come on. And people are complaining.
If you could just let us know those specific locations that are big issues, we can get a little more aggressive with it.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So Brian, what's the fine for violating the rules?
I can't remember offhand what the amount was. It's a standard commerce violation. I can't remember the amount.
If it's a city ordinance violation, the max fine under state statute is $2,000.
Any other questions? Okay, before we move on, I just want to mark for the record, Councilperson Solomon arrived at 4:07 p.m., followed by Councilperson Ridley at 4:08 p.m., and followed by Councilperson Saleh at 4:12 p.m. So we now have 8 council members in attendance, and we are waiting for Councilperson Prinzeri, who is going to be late. So moving on, our next item, 3.3, City Ordinance 20-096, an ordinance by the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City, accepting from 900 Garfield LLC and the Jersey City Redevelopment Agency dedications of property for inclusion in Garfield Avenue. Any questions or comments? Okay.
So I think we have Tom Lane to answer any questions and just kind of give the council an overview on this. This is part of the street widening of Garfield Avenue in compliance with the redevelopment plan from the PPG properties. This transfer was going to happen when the road was completed. It's happening now in order to assist the DEP in all the different compliance approvals related to that area. So that's the reason this is happening prior to the road being constructed. But the 2 things to keep in mind is the road will be constructed by the developer in accordance with normal practice as required by their site plan. And 2, the road will be cleaned up in compliance with the Garfield Avenue remediation plan for this sliver as well as the remainder of the road. So nothing is, while we're going out of order how the process normally works, nothing is actually going to change substantively for it.
Nick and Tom Lane of Conifoli here if there is any question.
Any of the council members have any questions for Tom? Thank you so much, Tom, for being with us and having the ability to answer the questions. So we don't have any of the questions. So we're going to move on to our next first reading ordinance, item 3.4, City Ordinance 20-097, an ordinance of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City adopting the Laurel Saddlewood redevelopment plan. Any questions or comments on this ordinance?
The presentation for the public as well.
There's Mr. Epstein's on the presenters, and I know he has a presentation.
Okay.
Yes, hi everyone. Thank you. I'd be happy to share a presentation and then answer any questions. So should I share now, Sean?
Sure.
Okay, so share. Can you all see it?
Yes. Council members, you can see that. Give me a thumbs up.
Yes, yep.
Excellent. Go ahead, Charles.
All right, thank you. So just to give a quick overview, as most of you are aware, this site is located between Marin Boulevard and Manila or Grove Street, and between 1st and 2nd. The site includes 38 individual townhomes and a park that's known as the Philippine Plaza. Just to give you an idea of the current conditions, just so you're aware of what it looks like. These are what the existing properties on site. A quick history here. The homeowners came together collectively back in fall 2017 and approached us with their, fall 2018, approached us with their hopes to sell the properties for redevelopment. And, you know, for me, it was an exciting opportunity because, you know, our company gets to be a part of a solution and work with the city to help solve the problems in our community and better our neighborhood. Similar to kind of what we did at the Lively, where we built a theater that is housing Nimbus Dance Works, and also has a new home for Lackawanna Coffee. We strongly believe that a development should not just benefit the people living in our building, but should truly embrace and fit within the fabric of the community. What I wanted to share with you all, just so you're aware, we've had a large amount of public outreach here. We met with not only members of the city planning, HEDC, some members of city council. We also met with the mayor's office, the Jersey City School Board, the PTA groups for PS16 and PS37, and also had several meetings with both Hartmist Cove Neighborhood Association and PANA, the Powerhouse Downtown Neighborhood Association. We also held a large public meeting for anybody in the public to come to, and that was in February 2020. So since November 2017, we really took the approach of making sure we got everyone's feedback. It's really important to get this feedback, and in our opinion, in order to have successful development, this is the approach that we believe is successful to do a public-private partnership. You can't just build a project without knowing what the community and the city is looking for. And what we've learned a lot was that we had many issues we wanted to address here with the community, including the constant flooding issues in downtown Jersey City, the lack of parks in downtown Jersey City, some of the unsafe conditions on Marin Boulevard, and also affordable housing, and more recently, what we learned a lot is about the overcapacity issue in the public school system. So I thought it'd be, I think you all aware this letter was addressed to you for Superintendent Walker about the need for additional public school facilities in downtown Ward E. Just a quick little background. This is as of February, so of course it's not currently happening in the COVID world, but PS16 is busing nearly 300 students. PS37 was busing 80 students. PS3 and 5 were told our capacity. And then, it looks like there should be additional 300 plus school-age children coming from the proposed developments in downtown Jersey City. And while we have PS16 annex under construction, that's only going to meet a portion of that demand. So it leaves a pretty strong demand of about 480 students plus. This property is situated really uniquely. It's actually in the middle of all the schools in downtown, so it allows this school that we're proposing to absorb the capacity issues of the current downtown schools. Again, a brief, so all that feedback that we received from everyone got incorporated into design. Just so you're aware, when we first started this project, the previous developers were pitching kind of a 2-tower scheme. That's typical what you see on a 2-acre site. It was quickly we were quickly told by city planning and the neighborhood that this level of density would not be appropriate for the site. So first step here was to reduce density by 50%. And to do that, we focused on what we call a high-rise and mid-rise development. However, we needed to come up with a development that truly embraced the historic nature of Harsmith's Cove, and that starts at the Manila Grove Street corridor. So we came up with this idea that created a step-down effect that allowed this site to create as a gateway to the historic district. And this was ideal here because, you know, this site is between the high-rise district and the historic district. So it's creating, it's keeping the high-rise portion on Marin Boulevard and stepping the project down till you get to Manila Grove. Another thing we addressed with the community was a need for public space. As you can see in this corner of the site, what we focused on was taking the existing Philippine Plaza, which was about it's about 2,500 square feet, and it's underutilized. It's not usually open to the public, and we came up with a plan to expand it by 4 times as much, to about 11,400 square feet, I believe. And then lastly, I shared with you prior about the school need. Being how the site is situated, we came up with a way that we could design the building where the low-rise portion of the building could fit a large school here. And that works great because now the school doesn't have any uses above it. It's just purely a school. There's no uses below it. There's no retail. It's just a school on all levels. And it has access to the park if we need it for its facilities. So that's kind of the process we went through by getting all the feedback from the community, from the city individuals and city representatives, and you know, it morphed into this project that really is a poster child of a private-public partnership because this has direct feedback from the public and on how to incorporate what all the needs were. Quick facts: we're talking about approximately 810 apartment homes, 14,000 square feet of retail. That's only going to be on Marin Boulevard. There is none on Manila and Grove. As part of this, a developer would be delivering a full public school, and that would serve either I think that's not to be determined what schools it serves, but that's for say it's pre-K to 5th, and I think conservatively that's about 350 students. There's a possibility, depending on the class, on the grades that it serves, that it can serve more students. There will be affordable housing. There'll also be a public park. There'll be a high volume stormwater management system in addition to what's required by code, just to help mitigate the flooding that happens in that region. And then we're also proposing public art, ample on-site retail and residential parking, and we're talking about doing this unparalleled community benefit package without any tax incentives, and that was also important for the community to have no property tax abatement. So that's very, very fast. I probably spoke very fast. That's a very fast summary of the project and the 3 years we've been working on it.
Can I ask a question? A couple of years ago, there were several residents there that were very much against this whole project. What happened to them?
We have 37 and 38 residents under contract. Again, they approached us, so they're very for the project. The only individual who's not on board yet is, to be honest with you, it's a rival developer and is not a residing homeowner. It's just an investor. But all 37 that we spoke to and all residing homeowners have signed contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And Councilman Bojan, they approached us. Now we want to make sure it's very clear. They'll approach us with, on their own will, and we worked to come up with a way to really give them, and protect them throughout this process. So I'm sure you'll hear from them on Wednesday, as you've heard from them in the past, but they'll come and speak on support and behalf of the project, and so far LMC's history with it.
All right, where are most of these people moving to? Are they moving out of the city?
I am not sure. I spoke to a few people. A few are looking to stay in Jersey City. They're Jersey City. Some of them are Jersey City lifelong residents and still have family in Jersey City. But I do not know. I know I'm not sure on the whole where they all are going. So maybe retiring. I'm not sure.
I missed it. What's the percentage of affordable housing you have?
We have a 5% affordable housing, or it is 5% affordable housing.
Okay.
Yeah, we took a unique approach with this project. We want to really get feedback from the community, and our goal, and I think, and I'm confident to say this, is that we have an unparalleled community benefit package. And what we've done is we try to hit all the key points from everybody and really try to get as many voices into this project as possible. So from affordable housing to a full public school to stormwater management and a public park, and in addition to some public art, that was really something that we really wanted to kind of bring it all together and have a project that the community could support and the city could support as a whole.
Is
All right,
there
let's
a,
start with Robinson. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Councilman.
I was just asking because it looks like the school has 5 stories. Is that correct?
The school has 3. Oh my God, I should know this by heart. I believe it's 4.5 stories, we call it. So it's 3 or 4 stories of classrooms, and the gymnasium auditorium is on the roof level. We've had 2 meetings with the school board and their representatives, and we shared the latest design with them, which they were very comfortable with on how the project lay out. To be honest with you, initially it was designed to be a 7-8 story structure, and it was the school board who came back and explained that that's not suitable for young children. There is an elevator, but most students will be taking the stairs. So we took their feedback and redesigned to make it more appropriate.
And there's separate space for like the trash and things like that to pick up for the school.
They do have a separate space. What we did incorporate into our parking garage was additional parking spaces for teachers and faculty. But the school's not fully designed. We're at a very early stage, but it is intended that the only I guess shared use would be parking. Other than that, everything would be self-contained within the school.
All right, that was my last and final question about parking. Like, how many parking spaces for the school itself, and how many parking for the residents?
And I'm sorry, I don't have that fully with me, but what we did is we do have a traffic study that provided the traffic counts. Our goal was to create ample on-site parking for residential and retail, I believe we have, I want to say 240, 250 spaces. That's higher than what the typical parking ratio would be for residential, and also has ample amount for retail. And then what we tried to do as well is we took some of the parking for the retail that was originally intended for retail and gave it over to the school, and I believe it was 10 spaces.
If you could just send us an email, I mean, you don't have to give it to us now, about just the parking breakdown. Thanks.
Yeah, I think the redevelopment plan provided guidelines on minimum maximums, and depending on who develops this, If our intention for developing it, we have an idea, but that it was meant to be to make sure there's ample on-site for both, for all three uses: residential, retail, and public.
Is there a pull-off location for drop-offs for school in the morning, as not to cause traffic in that area?
So we're still working on one with the city. I think what we came into an issue here was that traffic patterns don't allow an easy pull-off. We have 2 or 3 ideas that we're getting ready to propose to traffic, but we're going to work with planning and traffic and engineering, as well as the school board, to come up with the appropriate drop-off area. There's a little, I think the redevelopment plan was written so we could continue moving forward while we focus on making sure we design a proper drop-off. So you'll see in that plan, it references that we still will be working with certain agencies to design a proper drop-off.
I
Our hope is to utilize the park for drop-off areas in the morning, and to somehow create drop-off in front of that park.
I have a series, this is Councilman Navarro, series of questions and comments. Ask Charles if, first of all, I'll say thank you for the presentation, and thank you for meeting with me individually as well to discuss this project. Appreciate you being so accessible on this in that respect. A couple of things. You mentioned that it was addressing several issues, school capacity issues in the area of flooding, public space needs. The one thing that I'll say that didn't come up in the conversation was, although mentioned that there was 5%, affordable housing did not necessarily get mentioned as a need that's addressed. And after we're done talking here, literally after the very next item, we'll be talking about inclusionary zoning and affordable housing, and what that would look like for developments like this. But let me just ask some specific questions as it pertains to your project. And I'm just going to tick off the questions, and you can give them now or you can give them later, whatever that looks like. If you could let us know what the acquisition cost is for the various properties, the assemblage that you're putting together here, and then ideally by block and lot or by property owner, however that breaks down. The second thing is the rents, both for the affordable units, for the 5% affordable units, and what the market rate unit rents would look like. There was a fiscal analysis completed here, and there were certain assumptions, I guess, put into that, and would like to know what those specific rents were, that were the revenues that were, how that was all calculated. The third thing is the fiscal analysis. I did receive that memo and report from NW Financial, as you and I talked about, and perhaps it's not coming from you, but maybe from the administration and planning, or the business administrator's office. I'd like to get the underlying data, and I'd like to get it. I've made these requests in the past as it pertains to these redevelopment plans and the financial analysis, and oftentimes I never get it, or I get it at the 11th hour. I'd like to get that within the week, by the end of this week. It's the spreadsheets and the financial underlying data that goes into the calculation of those memos. NW Financial should be able to provide those easily, for if they're worth their weight or their salt, and then they should be able to furnish that data. It shouldn't really be a question. The second thing I wanted to ask, and this has never really been requested in the past, but I would request is if we could look at what the fiscal and school impacts are for Jersey City. We've done that traditionally in the past, although it hasn't been done in over 3 years because there's been no tax abatements. But there's always whenever a tax abatement was issued, to look at the fiscal impact, the municipal fiscal impact and the school fiscal impact. I'd like to see both, to see what the cost is per person and per child coming from this particular development. And that's just for my purposes to look at the financial analysis and to see how all the numbers are kind of shaking out here. In addition, in needing that, I'd ask for from the planning and the administration as well, or actually from the administration, I guess, what are the estimated taxes that the city will receive from this completed development, from both the market rate and the affordable units? What are the current taxes and what are the anticipated taxes, so that we can do a cost analysis on that. And since it's going to be conventional taxes and there's no tax breaks, what's the city's portion of that versus the schools as well as the county? And then my last question is where will the students for this school come from? I think I know the answer, but I'd like it for the public record, that the students should come, I believe are, like all of our schools in Jersey City, they come from geographic surrounding area. But I'd like that clarified for me from an official source to verify what that will be for this particular school itself. My last thing, Council President, I'll just make a comment and can move on from me, is that I'd just like to point out that this is exactly kind of the issue of inclusionary zoning. And I think the school and the benefits are great. And actually, I just want to also verify that Philippine Plaza will still be called Philippine Plaza when everything's said and done. And if you could just verify that, I know you're expanding the plaza, you're going to preserve the memorial, but I just would like that to confirm that we're in fact going to maintain that it's still going to be called Philippine Plaza after all of this. But this is the crux of kind of the inclusionary zoning in that sense. And while all of these benefits are great, I do think that these are all achievable, right? So what I mean by that you can have a school, you can have affordable housing, 20% with low and moderate income. Below that you can make the number of things pencil out, as they say around this, and ultimately that would be beneficial for Jersey City, as was said, to making a public-private partnership around this, that it'd be benefit everybody in that sense. And I think the benefit, again, among the issues that are addressed, the affordable housing and the idea that if we had a school built that had students of mixed incomes because they were from the surrounding neighborhood or from the building itself that's adjacent to it, they would all be in the same school, studying together in a state-of-the-art school, and we would have students and families who would move there, hopefully from Greenville section if we had preference, as we're endeavoring to do with the inclusionary zoning, and they would all be in a mixed income classroom as they would be living together in a mixed income building. And studies have shown that there are better results all around that, and that will, I think that's the best of all worlds ultimately. I recognize that that's probably not going to be a reality here, and but I think it's a failure of the administration, and I'll say it bluntly, it's a failure of this mayor to be able to have that vision and be creative about being able to figure out how to do that. That these benefits should not just be benefits for the downtown community. When we talk about community benefits, the question that has to be asked is, who is community? What is community here? And we need to do a broader definition of that when we're doing these sort of projects and these plans, so that we're actually sharing the benefits with the entire city and for all those working families throughout Jersey City. And that'll conclude my statements.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Sean?
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Phil. Okay, before we move on, I just want to mark Councilperson Prinzary present at 4:21 p.m. So we have all 9 council members in house. On to our second reading ordinances. Item 4.1, City Ordinance 20-089, an ordinance creating Chapter 187 inclusionary zoning of the Municipal Code requiring the inclusion of affordable housing units in all development projects with residential which have received use variances or increased density or height.
Councilmember Londo?
Yes.
I know we received the email, the council received the email about 2 something, I believe.
Yes.
And with the amendments that you desire. I know you want to go over one by one.
Yes.
I want to suggest, do you think about writing another ordinance, just yours yourself? I don't know. I'm just putting it out there because it's a lot of amendment changes that you desire. I mean, the council could listen and vote on it, but I'm just trying to see, you know, trying to be fair in a sense here. You want to write your own ordinance? I don't know. Because I mean, we're here to listen, you know, that's your right. I'm just trying to come up with ideas, that's all.
Sure. So, no, I think, okay, I think this is the process that's been established, and the amendment process is available to do this, and so I'd like to offer these amendments.
Okay,
3 of the amendments were the same amendments that were offered previously
okay.
on first reading. I'll just go through that, and if I can just share my screen, I'll do that as well. Just so let me these amendments that I'm putting forward are intended to close loopholes to ensure that there's more affordability on site and maintained on site, as opposed to what was currently proposed, which allows for multiple options for buyouts, and in my opinion, with few safeguards in there to ensure that developers actually have to, that the burden remains on them to be able to, that they should first have the obligation to build on site, and that the burden remains on them to prove that they can't actually complete and do the development on site. I'm going to start here with the First Amendment, and these amendments, and I just want to say this, is that you know, I think everybody has mentioned at some form that they wanted to see fewer buyouts and opt-outs. Throughout the committee process, the council president and Councilman Saleh were very pronounced about the idea that they did not want to see buyouts throughout this in this ordinance, and they wanted to see affordable units on site in the developments and require that from developers. The Councilman Robinson in Ward F brought up just at the last council caucus the very idea of increasing and ensuring, and everybody has talked about, as Councilman Robinson said, about increasing the requirement and affordability in downtown through all of development, how so little development has included affordable housing. And this ordinance won't achieve that currently as it's written, but hopefully these amendments will. Council President Ridley has talked about the concentration of affordable housing in Ward A, and wanting to see again disperse it throughout other parts of the city. So I offer these amendments and towards that goal, and I hope that you'll consider them, because I think if those are your goals and your intentions, then these amendments should make sense in accomplishing that. The first one here is increasing the minimum on-site requirements by tier. Literally could be tripling in the downtown tier 5 area, starting at tier 5 at 15% as a mandatory minimum on-site, and then stepping it down by 2.5% across each tier down to tier 1 at 5%, which is the current, the same as the current draft is right now. But in other parts of the city, it would be substantially more in those tiers where we say they are less cost burdened and more economically viable to be able to sustain that. The second thing is, I'll go back, and I offered this on first reading, eliminating the waiver, that broad provision. With all due respect to the Corporation Council with regard to that, the waiving of the IZO without any real basis within the law, within the ordinance, is contrary to the purpose of having an inclusionary zoning ordinance. It's creating the IZO should create a standard requirement for the developers and create certainty around that. But it should also, as Councilman Solomon has pointed out, tie our hands, the hands of ourselves and future officials, because as we've said, as other council people have said here in the past as well, that if there's a opportunity for another community benefit or something else, as we see today with the development now, and we'll see in the future with other developments as well. I believe at the JCRA tomorrow, the Westside Avenue LLC will talk about a charter school over there as well. And I'm not sure if that includes affordable housing in that development. The community benefits, similar to what we did in what I spoke about at the first reading, and so limiting it to public schools, recreation facilities, and public transportation system facilities. In particular, the schools and transportation system facilities are generally kind of funded through the state, and so although I don't think community benefits are generally desirable at all, because again, those will always be taken, the limiting it to that smaller pool of options could be palatable, at least for myself. But I think some of the other things, particularly the most egregious kind of example is the parking garage. That should even open the door for a parking garage is I think just kind of outlandish, frankly. And then you can kind of look at the rest of that as I've written it. The term of affordability, I know it was discussed, and Ms. McManus and planning had suggested that that the council will have the ability to release the affordability controls themselves, and so in essence, it would continue if City Council chooses not to release the affordability controls after 30 years, that it's in essence kind of in perpetuity. Well, it's untested law, and talking to attorneys who've been in this industry as well, they've said that this is certainly to be tested at some point, but it's just not going to be tested now because it hasn't come to, there hasn't been one that's come to expiration at this point. As was pointed out, the UHAC requirement around this in 2004 is only 16 years in. So we've got another 14 years before it gets tested. But if it should get tested, and the court should rule in the favor of the developers, and in that case, likely that the city would either have to ante up and kick in to pay more to maintain the affordability, or release it and ultimately lose the affordable units. The fifth one here that I've pointed out is the rounding. This is a very straightforward, when we're rounding the number of units, when we're calculating the number of affordable units, if hypothetically the number comes out to 24.4 units owed to the city as affordable units, that would round down, because mathematically, if it's below 0.5, you round down. And so we would get 24 affordable units, but instead of forego that 4/10 of a unit, we would ask that fraction that the developer will compensate the city in the form of a pro rata payment in lieu of contribution to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. The others here, I won't go into great detail, but they're fairly self-explanatory. The removal of additional exemptions, the Jersey City Housing Authority, the master plan exemption, the situation with the Jersey City Housing Authority, where right now where there are 200 units at Holland Gardens, and from what I've read, proposing to do 300 more units to make it 500 units over there. That would essentially be exempted, those 300 additional units. Perhaps it makes sense to do that, but exempting it shouldn't be a foregone conclusion. We should do the financial analysis, and we should do the vetting to ensure that that's the case. Perhaps it's necessary to provide an exemption in order for that developer to do the rehab and reconstruction of the entire Holland Gardens and all of the affordable units that come with public housing. But that isn't clear, and we shouldn't just presume as much, and we should do our due diligence as the fiscal overseers for Jersey City in that regard. I know it was mentioned that UHAC guidelines may be influencing here, but those UHAC guidelines could be written possibly into Section 188. But I would also defer to the law department if they were able to write something to just have it be applied to the UHAC guidelines, so that the situations like the housing, like Holland Gardens, would still have applicability with regard to determining whether or not there should be a 20% on-site obligation for their market rate units, I should say. The master plan exemption, I just don't frankly understand why we're including this. It's if it's a one-family house or it's an R1, R2 of some sort, there's no applicability. I think that was discussed in at the first reading. I don't understand the applicability there, and asking that we remove this at this time. There was a simple clause in there about requiring the approving authority to consult with the ward council person. I'd ask that council at large. I mean, I don't think I'm speaking for myself. I would think that every council at large person would want to be consulted with an IZO application and whether inclusionary zoning was going to apply as well. Some of these other changes are more minor changes, but I think important. One is I call it preventing the pour doors. It's just changing some of the language. Some of you have heard in New York City about the pour doors and the access there, where they set up back doors for the people who live in the affordable units. While we said that we want to create them and make sure that they're all equal and everyone has full access, this is some language that was recommended by Fair Share Housing to ensure that that in fact that the intent and spirit there and is in accordance with the letter of the law and that stuff. This next part talks about strengthening the conditions for off-site units or payments in lieu. While those provisions are written in there, this is something I talked about throughout the committee process, but also on throughout the committee process and also on the last meeting in September, on September 21st at the caucus. The idea of including some of Newark, New Jersey's language, and some of that is about putting it in some of that language where it basically says that the developer must prove that the off-site units or the payments in lieu will further Jersey City's housing policies more than the construction of income-restricted units, on-site units, I should say. So if the on-site units, if we're eliminating one, and as I've pointed out, then that cost of that unit is $400,000, and then we're getting one unit that's costing us half that cost somewhere else. I don't know that that's necessarily furthering our housing policy around that. Because we're not getting necessarily the same quality of housing and so forth, and so maybe we should be compensating that as by 1.5 units for everyone in that sense. Another thing here is just in terms of the offsite exemption or clause there that the developer should show proof of site control for the development, and including some language around that in there. And then lastly, fiscal analysis here. The fiscal analysis is something that Councilman Solomon, which I agree with, that the fiscal analysis should not just be the $5,000 and us conducting it, but that it should include the use of fiscal tools, but not limited to low-income housing tax credits. That all of that stuff should be analyzed via the fiscal analysis in order to assess whether an exemption or some sort of opportunity for them to forego get relief or buyout from their on-site obligation. So those are the amendments. I've included with each of you, and I sent it to the law department as well, actual strike-through document on that outlines each of these changes, what would be struck out and what new language might be written in. It's Monday. The meeting is on Wednesday to certainly consider it. I want to just point out that on Wednesday, we received similar amendments. I mean, we've received amendments for other things, just not even hours before the votes, less than hours before the vote, from the law department, and people and the entire council universally accepted those amendments before then. So I think with so much at stake with this ordinance and all the development that's still going on here in Jersey City, I'd ask the council to consider it, and I think this will further a lot of the goals that everybody's been looking to accomplish in that sense. That's all my comments on this matter.
Thank you. Do anybody have any questions, anything? Tomorrow we will consider and vote on it, yes or no. Do anybody have any questions for Orlando at this time?
You mean Wednesday? You mean Wednesday, Council President?
Yeah, Wednesday we have to vote on, do we accept his amendments or not? I don't know if anybody have any questions for him now. You know, I just want to make sure you guys have an opportunity to have questions. If not, then I'll tell Sean to move to the next one.
I have a general question about the tiers. Can we raise the percentage for our respective ward? Like, if we want to increase the tier for our area, or what is that tier grounded? A general question for. I don't know if that's corporation.
I mean, I'm using the same tiers that was established by the administration. They're not based on wards. It's my understanding they're based on some calculation related to cost burden within census tracts and possibly incomes. I'm not sure exactly what the calculations are there. I have to defer to planning on how that tier was calculated, but they're not ward boundaries, I should say, established. The last thing, Council President, I just ask if we could take a vote on each amendment.
No problem.
Great. So, Councilperson Lavaro, when you're saying take a vote on each amendment, are you referring to taking 5 single votes? Because you have 5, you listed 5 amendments, right? And then you have additional amendments with which you went over with the bullet points. Are you going to make that one combined amendment for the last one, those additional amendments? So we can, or maybe try to combine some of these. So
I'll try to combine some of them to make them of the ones that were bulleted after the first 5. I think the first 5 deserve their own vote, but I think we can kind of pull together the housing authority exemption and master plan exemption, for example. Some of the other ones could pull together to in one group as well. So I'll try to put it together and share that with the council president and the rest of the council.
I'm only trying to make it easier to follow for everyone.
Right.
That way, and also, so we're not spending
yes,
a good hour on making the amendments.
Absolutely, I can couple them together.
So, Sean, I just want to get clarity. So when he make his amendments, how will we do it? We'll do it in sections or what? So we won't spend a lot of time. So how?
Right.
Because then the council can vote yes or no. This way it won't get confusing. That's part of the problem. It gets confusing for us, really. Go ahead.
If looking at his sheet that looking at the screen share that he has, right? So he has 1 through 5. So that's 5 motions that Councilperson Lavaro will have to make. And need a second on the motion to make the amendment, and then we will vote on the amendment as long as the motion passes.
Oh, okay.
For each one, and then the ones with the bullet points, the additional amendments, he has agreed to try to combine some of them, so we can kind of narrow it down. I mean, if he can even combine some of the first 5. Like if we did the minimum on-site requirements by tier and then eliminate the waiver together. I mean, I don't know if you want to do that or if we can do that. It's just a suggestion, only to try to make things to go a little quicker. But go ahead, Council.
Go ahead.
Can I'll reach out to council members, and if there's an appetite for certain amendments that may see 5 votes as a result, then maybe those will get a separate vote. But if if folks want to just share with me up front where they stand on it, could do that in a private conversation, then I can kind of figure out what's the best way to do that there. If there's something that's that might garner 5 votes, then I'd like to try to introduce that as a separate amendment.
Okay, that's why I think Council President has suggested doing a separate ordinance, only because you do know that any of these amendments, if they are approved, it's definitely a substantial change and will require myself to re-advertise and to have another public hearing on this ordinance if any of the amendments are approved. Not that would sway a council member in any way, shape, or form. I mean, we've had that.
I mean, respectfully, I just say that shouldn't deter anything, because the effective date here is, I'm sorry, let me just finish. The effective date is January 1st. So Um,
No, we
so there's
just trying to
ample
figure out a way how to do this, that's all. So
Right.
I just want to get
wasn't
clarity.
indicating-
So with the council people, Councilman Lavaro is asking if you're interested in any of the amendments, reach out to him. Am I correct?
Yeah, that'd be great. And I'll reach out to everybody
Okay.
individually as well.
So if you're interested in any of the amendments, please reach out to him before Wednesday. And if not, then he will know what to do. All right. And I would appreciate it if you do reach out to him, just copy me. So this way here, when we have the meeting, I'll know how to go forth with the meeting. That's just fair.
Yep. And just for the
All
record,
right.
I wasn't indicating on any way, shape, or form that the re-advertisement would sway or a councilman.
Oh, no.
You know,
No, I don't think so.
all I'm doing is just spelling out the law and what
Right.
is required if the amendments, any of the amendments are passed.
Correct. Correct. We understand.
And I'll, if I may say this, that, and if I don't hear from anyone, I just want to be clear so that I'm not going to presume that that means you're opposed. I'm going to have to submit
Correct.
them all individually, right? So,
Right. So if, please reach out to him so he'll know. If you for it, if you for it, please let him know. If not, then just let him know. Because like he said, he don't want to assume, and it's fair. So I think that's fair for everybody to reach out and email him or whatever. Okay?
Great.
Everybody agree? I can't see nobody.
Yes,
Give a thumbs up if you agree.
I
Thumbs up. There you go.
agree.
Okay?
And Councilman Lavaro, all I would ask is if you do get some members, council members interested, you can maybe do a combination of those amendments that they are interested in, so we can do a like a combo amendment on that one. And if you don't get anyone, if there's any way you can try to condense the additional amendments that you went over tonight, that would be fantastic.
I will endeavor to do my best and also make sure that it just gets a fair hearing.
I of course, and I'm only asking so we can do the best job that we can possibly do.
Yes.
Appreciate it. Okay.
Okay.
On to our next second reading ordinance, item 4.2, City Ordinance 20-090, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 282 of the Jersey City Code, Health and Sanitation, establishing standards for the maintenance and servicing of portable laboratories. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. Item 4.3, City Ordinance 20-091, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 8, Permit Parking, Section 332-58, Parking Restrictions in Residential Zones, amending Zone 10 to include Ocean Avenue between Fulton Avenue and Stegman Street. Any questions or comments? Okay. Item 4.4, City Ordinance 20-092, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, Stopping, amending Section 332-27, Angle Parking on Mallory Avenue between Clendenny Avenue and Roosevelt Avenue. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. On to 4.5. City Ordinance 20-093, an ordinance supplementing Chapter 332, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3, Parking, Standing, and Stopping, Section 332-28.1.c, electric vehicle charging areas, designating electric vehicle charging spaces at various locations citywide. Any questions or comments on those? Okay. Right. On to, so far, the public request for a hearing is at 35. And on to our petitions and communications, items 6.1 through 6.18. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. We only have one officer communication, 7.1. At this time, we don't have any report of directors. We have our claims. Any questions or comments on the claims? Hearing none. On to our resolutions. Okay, our first resolution, item 10.1, resolution 20-726, resolution authorizing refunds due to New Jersey tax court appeals, tax court appeals on various property tax accounts. If there's any questions or comments on any of the resolutions, you can stop me and I will pause and you can ask your questions. Item 10.2, resolution 20-727, resolution authorizing refunds due to overpayments for property tax accounts. Item 10.3, resolution 20-728, a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a grant award from the Kurge Foundation. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Kresge.
Kresge, sorry. Thanks, Brian. Item 10.4, resolution 20-729, a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to accept a gift from Goals Cove Condominium Association, Inc. Item 10.5, resolution 20-730, resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to accept a gift from Welcoming America. A lot of gifts, excellent. Item 10.6, resolution 20-731, resolution ratifying the award of a contract to Career Builder Employment Screening LLC for background check services for the Department of Human Resources. Item 10.7, resolution 20-732, a resolution awarding a contract to Adams Riemann and Hagen Associates Civil Solutions to perform digital tax map maintenance.
Could you explain that one?
Is Ed on by any chance? No. Okay. This is just a renewal of the maintenance contract for the vendor that provides the digital tax map system that the tax assessor's office uses.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Item 10.8, resolution 20-733 is a resolution authorizing the award of a competitively bid contract to Gateway Security, Inc. to provide armed and unarmed security guard services at various city facilities.
What facilities, bro?
It's a long list of locations. We can provide that. I thought it was attached here.
And how many of these facilities now have a police officer there, or none of them?
We're thinking about ways to use our existing police officers here. We're going to do a cost-benefit analysis there. A lot of the security guards hired through this contract are paid less hourly than our police officers are, but we're looking at that for sure.
All right. First of all, you got to consider the safety of the people wherever they're assigned, and you might be doing the wrong thing. All right.
In some locations, we have both. We have, for example, a City Hall and City Hall Annex at Jackson Square. We have both at the same time.
How many officers are a part of this contract? I know it's 1.7, 1.8, and 1.9 million, but how many officers?
I'll get the full list. I apologize if it wasn't attached to the resolution here. It includes unarmed and armed guards, but I'll get the full list of locations and who's where.
Item 10.9, resolution 20-734 is a resolution authorizing the City of Jersey City to apply for and accept a grant award from the New Jersey Department of Consumer Affairs for lead abatement in Jersey City residences.
Sean, didn't we have this a few years ago? The same type of a resolution?
Well, that could be, Councilperson, but I believe there's a grant that we're going to be getting, a grant award. So we have to apply for it. We may have to apply for that every year, but Brian, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep, sorry, yeah, every year.
Okay. Item 10.10, Resolution 20-735 is a resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Soaring Words, Inc., for mental health services for the community due to a December 10th domestic attack funded by Victims of Crimes Assistance for the Department of Health and Human Services.
If there's any questions, I'm here.
Thank you, Stacy.
Hi, Director. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I think this says that the workshops was already completed, correct?
Correct. We tried to get this on the last council agenda, but there were too many things on the agenda. We had to complete the project by September 30th. The state was delayed, which is why we tried to execute quickly, because we were working very much behind what VOCA has been given us, and they had to close out the grant. So we either issued a emergency contract or didn't do the work.
Okay.
I have one more question on page 11.
Sure.
It talked about the 375,000 grant. Could you explain that to us? The SAMHSA.
The SAMHSA grant. The SAMHSA grant's been going on for the last 2 years. The work that we do pretty much daily with one team member is to train people on mental health first aid. During COVID, because it was an in-person course, we had to wait for approvals for certificate. This is a certification for mental health first aid. I think we've invited you and your staff to take these classes. And then we host them for nonprofits. We do this for the police, fire, and EMS, and teachers and nurses. So we've been doing them for the last 2 years. And now that it's online, it's a pre-course that you have to do some work prior to a 4-hour online class. That's in 2 parts. I don't know, this keeps clicking on and off. So SAMHSA is the federal grant from HRSA, and we received it 2 years ago. This is our 2nd year as we close out this year, because they work on a federal fiscal year, so that's October 1. We're hoping to get more social workers. This is the grant where we engage our social workers. We hire social workers to conduct and facilitate these trainings, and then we engage and connect the dots with the chaplain program.
Okay. Item 10.11, Resolution 20-736, a resolution of the Municipal Council of the City of Jersey City amending a grant agreement with the New Jersey Department of Health Division of HIV, STD, and TB Services.
It's just our standard STD grant for the city clinic.
Okay. Item 10.12, Resolution 20-737 is a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing the adoption of the 2020 Hudson County, New Jersey Hazard Mitigation Plan Update. Item 10.13, Resolution 20-738, resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Lemark Electric for the 18 individual 120 volt, 20 AMP cord drops to provide accessible power for snow removing vehicles that built-in engine block heaters project for the Department of Public Works. Item 10.14, Resolution 20-739. It's a resolution awarding an emergency to Continental Hardware, Inc. for purchase and delivery of plumbing hardware, cement supplies for the City Hall basement due to COVID-19 for the Department of Public Works.
Mr. Clerk, can we go back to 13?
Sure.
I just would like to know if anybody could fill us in on what that is, like engine block heaters.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask the same thing.
Sure. So when the temperature drops significantly at or below freezing, diesel engines have a lot of trouble starting. This allows us to have the snow removal vehicles that are stored outside with diesel engines. It's an electric device that keeps the engine warm, so there's no trouble starting those engines when they need to get out in the middle of the night, in the middle of a snowstorm, that sort of thing.
So do we own the engine block heaters? This contract is just for the lines to run to it.
Yeah, we're purchasing the block heaters separately, and they are not expensive. We just need to pay for electrical work to get power to the vehicles themselves. It's just like a little mini space heater. It's not that complicated of an item.
Okay.
Okay. Alrighty. We're on to item 10.15, resolution 20-740 is a resolution ratifying and awarding an emergency contract award to Tri-State Office Interiors for purchase and delivery and installation of shades for City Hall basement, new office space for social distancing efforts due to COVID-19 for the Department of Public Works. Item 10.16, resolution 20-741, the resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Cliffside Body Corp for the purchase, delivery, and installation of 5,000-gallon calcium storage tank for the Department of Public Works, Division of Sanitation. Item 10.17, resolution 20-742, resolution authorizing the award of a contract to Encon Mechanical Corporation for sports lighting and scoreboards at numerous ball fields for the Department of Public Works, Division of Park Maintenance. Item 10.
I have a question for that
Sure.
one. How does COVID affect the contract? Is it gonna be lower? I know we took a lot of, well, not took money from recreation, but money wasn't there because we didn't use the fields for we didn't use the rec department for about 6 months. But if we're not using the fields, is it still gonna be the same contract price? Or are we back to normal use of all of the fields?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me follow up with the Department of Recreation on that. I'll get back to you.
But this is the time to look at these contracts and have these people look at, the scoreboards and the maintenance part as the season is on a downstate. I know we didn't use them, but we have to work on this now and get it ready for next year. We don't know. Maybe next year we'll be on these fields, so we can't afford not to pass this or look at this if we're going to to have these parks maintained for next year. It's always the year prior that you look at these contracts for the next upcoming season, whether it's football, baseball, soccer, whatever.
That's a good point, Councilman. And also, this is as we do all of our contracts, this is a not to exceed sort of contract, and we would want to approve it at that same level that we've done in years past in case of all of the issues that Councilman Rivera brings up, but also we may or may not spend the same amount that we did in years past because of lower usage, but I'll let you know on that.
Okay. Item 10.18, resolution 20-743 is a resolution ratifying a contract award to Six Tech Medical USA, Inc. for the purchase and delivery of personal protection cloth mask with the city logo due to coronavirus for the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Item 10.19 pretty much looks identical. I believe they're different amounts. Resolution ratifying contract award to Fix Tech Medical USA, Inc. for the purchase and delivery of personal protection mask with the city logo due to coronavirus for the Office of Emergency Management, Homeland Security.
Yeah, Sean, just to clarify, 18 is cloth masks and 19 is a standard surgical mask. So they're different types of masks.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. And that's why they're different amounts too. All right, item 10.20, City Resolution 20-745, a resolution of the City of Jersey City authorizing the circulation of preliminary official statements and final official statements in connection with the sales and of certain bond anticipation notes and special emergency notes of the city and certain water project notes of the City of Jersey City Municipal Utilities Authority, and approving continuing disclosure undertakings with respect to said notes and authorizing and/or ratifying other actions in connection therewith. Item 10.21, Resolution 20-746, resolution amending the professional service agreement with the law firm of Florio Kenny Raval LLP to serve as special counsel to represent the City of Jersey City in tax appeals.
Clerk, can I just ask, can the law department update us on the transition out of the outside contractors for this and into the in-house folks?
Yeah, sure, Councilman. As you know, we have begun the process of doing so. I think we're well on the way to doing so. We have not been pulling any cases that were previously assigned or for which the matters were in active litigation for a number of reasons. One, it doesn't make sense to pay money to have an attorney start on something and then pull it from them. It's essentially a sunk cost at that point. And nevertheless, all of the newly filed appeals going back to earlier this year have been sent to the law department directly, and we've been appearing on those. There's been a delay on a lot of the arguments and decisions on these appeals, as there's been with a lot of litigation in the current state with the COVID pandemic. Nevertheless, we crunched some numbers today, and we believe that we believe that there are about 3,200 active tax appeals right now. Nick, I think you're still on here. You were part of that meeting, but I think we have now assumed the law department directly has assumed. What was the number again? Do you recall?
I don't recall the number of 2020s, but we've assumed all the 2020s and are doing substitution accounts of all the 2019s, with the exception of those that run past into 2018, 2017, 2016. Because what some people do is if their old appeals have not been resolved, they'll file a new appeal each year. So you'll have an appeal going back 2019, going back to maybe 2015. So those we're leaving with outside counsel, but any new appeals in 2019 and any 2020 appeals, they're coming to us. In addition, we've handled all the county board appeals this year, which includes 1,650 cases. So all of those were handled in-house this year. So we're already starting to see a savings based upon that. And we're hoping that the savings obviously will ramp up as we get all the 2020 squared away and all the 2019s sent back this way. But it's not, unfortunately, it's not one of those things that can be an immediate thing, but you're going to see that these contracts become less and less over time and eventually hopefully down to basically nothing.
And I think we anticipated there was going to be about a couple-year process of winding down with outside and bringing everything, I would say working out the old cases and then having all of the cases in-house.
Cool. All right. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Item 10.22, Resolution 20-747 is a resolution to award a professional engineering services contract to WSP USA Inc. for the local preliminary engineering design assistance local safety program for the Montgomery Street Safety Improvements Project, number 15-003T, for the Department of Administration, Division of Engineering, Traffic and Transportation. Item 10.23, Resolution 20-748, a resolution authorizing the award of professional service contract to Acme Heritage Consultants in connection with archaeological consulting services for Reservoir Number 3, Site Safety Improvement Project Number 2019-007 for the Department of Administration, Division of Architecture. Item 10.24, Resolution 20-749, resolution authorizing the award of professional service contract to Langen Engineering and Environmental Services, Inc. in connection with environmental consulting services for engine company number 10 and ladder 12, new firehouse project 2018-004 to the Department of Administration, Division of Architecture.
Sean,
Yes,
I was on mute. Is Brian Weller on the air?
I believe he is.
Yes, Councilman and all.
Can you
Hello.
explain 1023?
1023. Yes, absolutely. The site is historic, and we need to have a archaeologist available. This is the lowest responsible respondent to the RFP we put out. They need to be out there anytime we're doing any digging or excavation.
All right, what are they looking for, Brian?
I'm not an archaeologist, but they're looking for anything of historic significance.
Can we request to meet with Councilman Boggiano before they begin?
I'm sorry?
Can we request that they meet with Councilman Boggiano and get his insight before they begin any work?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
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 He's a historic buff. He knows a lot.
Yeah.
That's right.
Perfect. That's perfect.
All right, Brian.
And Brian, could you walk us through 24 as well, since you're on?
Okay, 24 is the site of our new engine 10. Unfortunately, the site's been found to be contaminated. So we do have to have an LSRP on site, but they have done the preliminary testing. We have a good handle on what we expect during the construction of the new building. This cost is all inclusive for what we anticipate. We don't anticipate needing to exceed this amount based on the reports that they have so far. And I guess I would just like to finalize with the fact that, you know, the city didn't put this contamination there. So by having LSRP and all the documentation, we should be able to pursue the alleged perpetrator from years ago. It's not going to happen overnight, but I don't think the city will end up being on the hook for any of these remediation costs.
If it's contaminated, why are people still allowed to go inside there? I mean, like what?
Well, it's a vacant lot. When we were directed to go to that site, we thought the site was already cleaned, to be honest.
So cleaning and cleaning litigation or whatever it takes. What's I guess a time frame for us to realistically think about getting a firehouse down there? You know, we've been without a firehouse in the Bergen Lafayette area for some years.
I'm happy you asked that question. The project's out to bid right now. We have full support, so if we get good bid results, we could be breaking ground early next year. Yeah, I'm well aware of the fact the firehouse is way overdue, but we've had a lot of issues come up that we've had to kind of steer around, not to mention this contamination issue. It changed the footing foundation and a few other components of the building.
Okay. Item 10.25, resolution 20-750, resolution renewing professional service agreement with Charles Montaigne to provide legal counsel regarding Conrail's abandonment of the 6th Street embankment.
Brian, how much have we spent on the 6th Street embankment?
751, resolution authorizing. Excuse me?
Yeah, Brian, how much have we spent over the last 7 years on the 6th Street embankment? How many millions?
I don't know how much we spent on the legal side of things. I do know that we issued debt, I think it was in 2000, for like 6 or 7 million. And we have the bulk of that money left. We have over 6 million left for this project there.
Councilman Boggiano, if you want to know about the legal fees, I can get that information for you.
Yeah, would you please?
Sure.
I thought this was all settled, solved, and on its way.
Well, it's an extremely complicated affair, as you obviously well know. Nevertheless, we are still working toward a resolution.
All right.
Can I get a copy of the expenditures as well? Expenditure report? And
sure.
Have things changed dramatically since the last time we had a closed session about this, or what's the status?
I can update everybody on the status offline. If there are further questions after that, we could go further. But I could have a discussion with everybody and let you know where we are on this.
Okay.
Okay, the last resolution, 10.26, resolution 20-751, a resolution authorizing the use of competitive contracting to award a contract relating to management of voluntary benefits. Okay, any questions on that? Any questions or comments at all?
Yes, can I ask a question for Council President and the Law Department? I saw the news about the settlement about One Journal Square and Kushner Companies. I assume, but don't know, that settlement would have to come before the City Council. And if it does, should we put a closed session on our agenda this meeting so that we can have that in the upcoming future?
Discussion.
Yeah, we can discuss that. Yes.
Okay.
Council President, would you like us to prepare that resolution for Wednesday?
Yes, for a closed session on that, yes.
Okay, and I'll touch base with Desiree on the time.
Okay, no problem.
Actually, I understand they're going to give a large sum of money. I think they should give it to the Loews. It should go towards the Loews Theater.
Okay.
Is there an action that the council will have to take in the future on this?
It's to be determined, and that I will let the council know on that question soon. The terms of the settlement do not involve the city itself outlaying any funds or taking any specific action.
Okay. I understand it's on the redevelopment agency agenda tomorrow. Can we get copies of the information related to that, or is that?
I'll reach out to the JCRA and, obviously to the extent that the documents are publicly available and they're not subject to any kind of privilege, I will obtain those.
Great. Great. Thank you. Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. May I have a motion to adjourn at 5:37 p.m.?
Motion.
Motion made by Councilperson Prince Airy, and I believe I heard a second from Councilperson Soleil.
Yep.
Very good. On the motion to adjourn at 5:37 p.m., all council members present by acclamation, please say aye.
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 Okay, we are out of here at 5:37 p.m. Thank you very much, everyone.
Danny, I'll meet you in a few minutes, all right?
All right, Rich, sounds good.
Okay.
I'll meet you both in a few minutes.
Take care, everyone. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, members of the public, and my members of my staff for making this all possible, and the people behind the scenes making it all possible. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, council members. Have a great night, and remember, when you're out and about, please remember to wear that mask. Have a great night.
Good night, Shawnee.
Good night.
Good night.
Night.